In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I secured a six-figure customer success manager role in 2024 during a brutal job market with zero prior CS experience or additional certifications, just the skills and the unique background that I already had. I'm Summer Morton, a customer success manager who transitioned with no experience, signing an offer 19% above my target range, 10 days after the first call with the recruiter, using less than 4 hours a day to do it. And every single skill that I did to move myself forward, I now use daily as a CSM. If you're a professional with a track record of wins and you're struggling to get a role or even just an interview in customer success, and you know that you have the skills required and the ability to fill in the gaps, then you are just like me. And I'm making this because there are amazing people out there, just like I was putting all of the right energy into the wrong places. I'm going to walk through the exact step-by-step process that I used to land my first customer success role, including navigating the interview process, how I can tell my story to build value and reduce the risk, proactively removing the objections through showing instead of telling, and ultimately securing an offer above my target salary. If you're ready to turn your skills into a successful career in customer success, let's dive into my CSM success map, and it's designed to help you get the attention that you deserve and stand out from the crowd, turning your first or your next customer success role into an inevitability. Let's get started. What we're going to cover is why traditional applications aren't designed for non-traditional applicants. And if you think about it, what way can a company distill all of someone's skills and experiences into the shortest, easiest way for them to process? Probably through a resume, and then probably through some sort of machine or process that can take a lot of these things at scale. So when you think about a constraint of a business growing, they'll get more and more customers, assuming that the product is solving some sort of need in the marketplace. And when you get more and more customers, you then need to have more and more internal customers or employees to service those customers. For a company who's trying to grow, or maybe they've lost some headcount or something like that, they need to get people quickly and at scale. And so that online application process is designed for them to reduce their risk and for you and me to do all the work. And we spend hours and hours and hours and hours making a resume that is perfect and trying to catch up with a system that is designed for the business to succeed. So we're trying to take it back into our own hands. We're going to cover the 3 pillars of being a CSM that I use every single day to define my role, and how they're actually the same to break into customer success, and how by getting into CS, you can get better at being a CSM. And we're going to go through what it really takes, because it takes a lot of energy, and this is not for someone who would like to be average. You need to be above average and beat the average bar in order to be able to compete with someone who has this piece of experience on their job title. And this is why most will give up. And it is a good thing, because being a CSM means that you need to focus on results, outcomes, and activity. There's no one here to hold your hand, and it's not easy. I felt extremely overwhelmed when I first started because I really didn't know what to do. If you can't follow through on this process, then the odds are you might not make the best CSM anyway. Self-selection criteria, right? Self-selection process. And so what we're going to do is just put in the effort. Where was I? I was struggling to land a role or an interview or get any attention in customer success. I met a dude on the driveway from my street, and we sort of had a chat, and I shared that I was wanting to break into a new sort of space, and he recommended customer success as the place to look. I hadn't heard of it before, and I took his advice because he looked successful on the outside. I knew that he was in business and he'd been highly successful. I looked him up. He was highly successful in business, so he had valid advice. And he believed in me where I maybe didn't a little bit. So getting a little bit of external validation is always really nice to motivate. And I went and looked into customer success, and I went, okay, maybe I can do this. I did the thing that you do, and I made my resume look pretty good. I started writing cover letters with a custom hook and keyword matching on my resume and everything. And I sent over 80 of these with 0 responses. And as you can see on the bottom, I did get one, but it was after I'd already gotten my job. So it's a little bit useless. And these are job applications without any sort of other activity. So just sending it in like what you would normally do. And I lost a lot of confidence in myself, even though I knew I had what it took to be able to succeed. So through trial and error and not taking no for an answer, I came across what steps to take when traditional applications just aren't cutting it. How to build value through that process and remove obstacles with my unique background and with your unique background, and then where to target with where to start within customer success as a whole. And ultimately, as I went through the process, I got more and more convinced that customer success was for me and it was possible for me too. This is a copy of my resume that I had created to get the role, and nobody looked at it. Every single bullet point within here is meticulously designed, and I'm showing you this because I spent probably like 2 months going through iterations of this, and I got my role with this not being the key factor. But creating it was really important because it taught me how to distill my actions and my skills and my achievements into a language that made sense for the person that was reading it. And that's extremely important. So I looked at the resume as a condensed version of my story. And it is important, and we need it. This is a copy of the exact message that I sent that landed the role, and it's not the best in the world. I'm going to break it down later so that you can design it yourself. But I just want to show you that it's not about the perfect thing, and it's about doing the imperfect thing. And I was stuck in inaction because I wanted it to be perfect. And I wanted to make every single shot the best shot that I could take. And I wasn't that skilled. Still not. And so I had to weigh volume of actions against the leverage that my skill gave me within each action. And because I had a lower amount of leverage and a lower amount of skill, I had to take a higher amount of volume and do it at a faster pace. Here are the 3 pillars of being a CSM as I see them. The first one is the persona. So it's who are we talking to? The second, and that ties into the persona, is your product. And what problem are we solving? And how do we increase the perception that our product is going to solve that problem? And the third is the prompt. And what are we going to do about it? What are we going to say and show that increases that perception? So in this scenario, we have a company. They are hiring a customer success manager. They have a problem of some sort that they're trying to resolve with a new CSM. Maybe someone left in the company and they now have accounts that need someone to look after them and they don't have bandwidth internally. Maybe they are growing and expanding rapidly and they cannot keep up with customer demand and they're starting to lose customers and that's costing them revenue. Maybe there is inefficiencies and they need to bring in a new customer success manager who has a certain set of skills to be able to operationalize the CSM role. I don't know, but they have a role out for a reason. I worked for a year in recruitment, starting in professional services and temporary recruiting for contracts. So I did a heap of volume in temp and I did really well there. And it was part recruitment, part account manager. So I'd have to call into organizations and identify a role and try and understand, well, what do you want from this person and this role? And they weren't really looking for a person. They were looking to guarantee an outcome because they had a problem. And it was kind of like productizing a human, right? So it's a set of skills and using a resume and a story to help show how this person will be able to solve the problem and create an outcome. And so when I moved into professional services, it was really interesting because these were really high level roles and you needed a lot of skills to be able to determine the outcomes. And what I found was that a lot of the stuff on the job description was kind of like a wish list. And there were a few core things that were important. And that a hiring manager's past experiences and emotions really influenced how they felt about whether someone could do the job. And that was really interesting. And those things led me to understand a little bit more about what I should do and say when I'm in these interactions with this persona. So the first persona that we're going to cover is a CSM, and they're the first person that we're going to be speaking to. And we're going to run through the pillars of each, okay? So we're going to define customer success together, and this is just as I see it there's no formal CS sort of course or thing to do. So this is from exposure to a lot of different views online, LinkedIn, YouTube, reading a whole bunch of documents, my personal lived experiences, and a whole heap of thought and a bunch of wasted time too. We're going to look at why they're needed, what skills do they use, and then how does a CSM measure success. Every organization has a kind of different. There are very reactive CSMs that are more support focused and proactive CSMs that are more account management and revenue focused. You might be solving tickets, but you might actually be completing renewals. There is a lot of flexibility and it will show up in your day-to-day life. So understanding this will help you quickly disqualify opportunities that are not what you want. Next, we're going to look at the product. And here we're looking at what's the problem. And so this is really dependent upon the stage in this process that you're at. But fundamentally, at this stage, we're going to be reaching out to a customer success manager. Okay. And so what's their problem? Well, maybe they're feeling undervalued right now. Maybe they've worked extremely hard and they're not being recognized because they're not necessarily doing the right things to get that recognition internally. Maybe their direct manager just doesn't say good job. I don't know. Maybe they want to feel important and valued and they want to be able to help give someone advice. Maybe they feel like their own network is kind of limited and they want to be able to expand it because they see the value in having a potential person there in the future. I'm not too sure what their problem is. That's for us to try and find out together, but we know that it could be one of those things. And so going through this process, you're then going to define your value. And not your value as you, or not my value as Summer, but my value as a product. How can I guarantee an outcome? How can I increase the perception that my CSM product will solve for that problem? And the way that we do that is through looking at skills and accomplishments. And our skills are simply how well can we do a certain action, right, with a nice name. And our accomplishments is what have we achieved when we apply our skill to a certain situation. And we try to quantitatively create accomplishments, make them about numbers that are easy to see, and everything's concise and simple. And then when we have all those things together, we're going to look at unique pairings, which are things that are particular to you and they're personal to you. And they're skills that when put together are greater than the sum of the individual parts. An example, you could be the best salesperson ever. And maybe you're promoted to manager and you don't have the ability to coach, right? And then there's another person who's the best salesperson ever and they do have the ability to coach. Now they can duplicate that skill and they can teach others and they can make 10 awesome salespeople. One of them is worth more than the other one, right? One is worth 10 awesome salespeople. One's worth one, who isn't even selling, actually. They're trying to teach badly. So we're looking at what your unique pairings are and how to articulate those, and then also what your risks are, because this is a risk decision by the company. They're going to hire someone that doesn't have customer success manager on their job title, therefore they are a risk. How do we de-risk? And the way that we do that is through telling a compelling story and having a fantastic narrative. And then you do use your resume. It is a part of the process. So we're going to look at how we can make that too. And we're going to run through the prompt. This is what you do. This is what I do every single day. I do these 5 things daily as my job. Everything falls into one of these 5 buckets. And I mean, honestly, one of those buckets is kind of to preparation and practice, probably the same sort of thing. But we're sending a message or an email. Okay, we're running a meeting of some sort with someone. We're asking the right questions of ourselves before the meeting and of them during the meeting. We're going to prepare and we're going to practice. All right, so nothing's left up to luck. Let's actually do this. And this is why this makes sense for me. I'm going to show you what I did. And I started with, who do I know? Now, I didn't really know anyone. I'd moved countries. I did not have a robust network. I had a bunch of strangers on LinkedIn who I added when I was recruiting. Don't know how helpful that was. But I went through and I looked at who could know someone. And I didn't do the best job here. Were I to do this again, I would send way more messages to an existing network. But I sent 4. And that's what I felt I could do. Out of those 4 messages that I sent, I got 3 meetings. It's a pretty good conversion. And one of those meetings, I actually got 2 referrals coming out of the meeting, even though I botched it completely. And you can see if I'm going through all the way to the end, it's a ratio of like 1.3 messages per referral. Then, individual contributors. This is where I spent the bulk of my time. So out of 119 messages that I sent, and this is 119 contacts. So there are multiple messages in the stage that I was going through. I got 13 meetings, so it's an 11% conversion, way worse than people I already knew. And then I actually, because I've done quite a lot of meetings and I had a pretty good flow, I converted 62% of those into a referral, so 8 different opportunities. And when I sort of dial it all the way to the end, I would be sending 9.2 messages. Okay, so we'll call it 10 in order to generate some traction. So I was just trying to say, okay, great, I took a bunch of activity. How can I then know how much activity I have to make to get more results? I sent a whole heap of messages to managers. They're really busy. I got a lot of responses, but only 2 meetings booked. And one of them I did get a great interview. I went through like the last stage, bombed it completely. But there's a lot of advice out there. I'm just looking at what I did, and I found that after I exhausted my personal network, which was small, so it took me 10 seconds, the individual contributor role, so like a CSM, a senior CSM, that was where I found the bulk of success. And then that's just a little comparison of why I think networking messages makes way more sense than job applications. And if you're in agreement, let's go on to the next step. This is just to show you that of those 119 messages, one of them was the one that got me this role. You only need 1 yes. You're not trying to get 10 yeses, 50 yeses. You need 1 person to take a shot on you. That is it. It could be your next one. You don't know. That's not up to us to decide. All we can do is increase our activities to increase the surface area of luck. Okay, the one thing you can't see in all of that is something that's a really important factor that I found, and that was keeping my response time as short as physically possible. On the right-hand side is a screenshot of my response timings. I was international at this point in time, overseas with a 14-hour time difference. So it wasn't really as fast as what it could have been, but I checked my phone a lot. It was on loud. Notifications for these things was turned on. I knew what I was going to say in response, so I didn't have to think about it. And I kept everything as brief, concise, and personal as I could. Just like a human. So let's break down the first message. What you're going to do is we're going to look at who am I? Okay. Now, this is pretty easy to do, and this is easier if you have gone through your resume and you understand your skills and achievements. But it's not who you are or what you've done that you're trying to get at here. It's the perception of who you are and what you've done. And this is what's amazing. I didn't feel confident sending these. I didn't lie, but I presented my best foot. So we shape their perception with the right story. And that's what's really important. And what you're going to do is just break down these 4 things. We're going to break down what's your name, what's your role in your persona's language. Okay, and this is a customer success manager. Okay, that's the persona that we're working with. What industry aligns with this person? What company? What are the achievements that are the most impressive that you have or in common with that person? And just a little example, it might be something like, my name's Bob, a customer-facing professional from the CPG industry with 10 years handling strategic accounts from implementation through to renewal. So in this scenario, this is how I would actually start a conversation, an interview. It's all the same thing. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to walk through finding an opportunity through LinkedIn, and we're going to find a person, and we're going to send them a message. All right, here we are. We are in LinkedIn. We've just typed Customer Success Manager into the search bar, and here is what we have. I'm going to run through a few different things here, but our goal in this moment is to identify a role where we tick maybe 30 or 40% of the job description, or you look at it and you go, I can do this job. We're going to be working with volume here, so the fact of the matter is that you may not necessarily be able to do every single thing on the job description, right? So let's have a look here. This looks pretty cool. All right, we're going to scroll on down. We're going to have a look at a couple of the pieces here. This is about the job. It's important for you to read through each of the different pieces here and assess whether you would actually want to do the role as well. All right, we're going to check out. Here we are. Okay, so qualifications, there aren't that many of them. All right, let's have a look. So 5 years of work experience. So you have to have been in the workplace for 5 years. Fair enough. Very generic and ambiguous. What does that mean? What does 5 years give someone? Who knows? History in managing complex customers and multiple stakeholder points of contact with high customer satisfaction. Okay, great. So if you have a role and you've dealt with CSAT before and you have that metric, this would be a valuable thing to do. If you can talk to any time that you've handled a customer and that you have left them satisfied, all right, and then you've got to define satisfaction, this could be a fantastic thing. Motivating customers and clients through process or organizational change to desired outcomes. Great. So we want to understand what are the outcomes that we're trying to do. What are the different methods of motivation that you have? What are the tools that you would use and the skills? And process or organizational change. Okay, so we're assuming that some sort of change is going to be occurring. Well, I feel pretty good about this. Let's see if we can apply for this role. What we're going to do, we're going to quickly take this. Okay, and then I don't have any of those preferred qualifications, but that's okay. All right. And then what we're going to do, we're going to jump ourselves into this company and we're just going to find a person. So what's going to happen here is you're going to look at the role level and it just says Customer Success Manager. So quickly, we're just going to break this down. Okay. So you have an associate, you might have a specialist, and then you might have a manager. Okay. You might have someone who is junior. You might have someone with no modification. You'll often have someone that's senior. You'll have a lead, and then you'll often have a strategic. And then the third way that we could look at this is in segment. And we're often looking at the role plus one. So this is a customer success manager. So I could look for a senior customer success manager. I could look for a lead customer success manager. I could look for a strategic customer success manager. It doesn't specify the segment, but if it was for SMB, then I'd want a +1. So I might be looking for commercial and above. That's typically what we're going for. Okay, so we're going to go and find one of them right now. So we're going to head to people. I'm going to type into my search bar, senior customer success manager. You don't have to capitalize it. I'm just pedantic. And we have 86 members. That's a lot of members. Okay. So we're just going to click on through them and we're going to see what's going on. Enterprise Customer Success Manager, 8 months. This looks great. Let's have a look. Okay, whoa, look at this. They've come from international. So have I. So there's a piece in common. They were the head of operations and customer success. Okay, they worked at KPMG. It's one of the big firms. This is really interesting. And let's have a look. They've done consulting. They've done deal advisory. They're a senior consultant. They have a background in international political economy. Okay, so this isn't necessarily a direct background in business. International relations. They have a project management background as well. Okay, fantastic. Let's give it a shot. We'll have a look at some, there's no about me. So let's have a look at their comments. If there are anything interesting in their recent posts, how active are they? Okay, so it's been 3 years since they posted. All right, and it's congrats, cool. So what we're looking at doing here is we're going to go, okay, great, we're going to send a connection. Okay, if you have LinkedIn Premium, you can send your connection through there. We're going to get their name. All right, I'm going to just chuck it on into here. Now I would be putting this into a Google Sheet. Okay, but right now we're just going to be writing a message. There's no about me. I like when there's an about me. So 8 months, enterprise customer success manager. 8 months, enterprise customer success manager. Okay, and then they transitioned from Nigeria to Toronto. Okay, so then here we're going to say Nigeria, Toronto. Okay, that's a piece in common. And what we're looking at here is, okay, what's my name? Well, my name is Summer. Do we have any similarities in our background? Okay, I've never been a CSM before. So let's have a look back down here. What other experiences do we have at KPMG? Analyst. Perfect. I always liked to refer to myself as a customer-facing professional. It's kind of, a little bit generic, but we can put like that. I'm a customer-facing professional with a background in data analysis. And then here, what we're trying to look at is, okay, what do we got? Managing complex customers. Okay, great. With a background in data analysis. And see, I don't really like that very much. I'm a customer-facing professional with a background in, now let's see, what have we got? With an analytical background. See, I'm just going to say an analytical background. Why am I saying that? See, you have an analytical background. Okay, great. Data-driven stories and presentations. So we're going to pull this one in, okay, and we're going to say, hey, I am a customer-facing professional with an analytical background and a history of we're just going to chuck some words in because we're going to massage it. This is the most challenging part. I'm kind of having a hard time coming up with the right thing to say here. Maybe we can use ChatGPT to help us out. Okay, so then what we can say is we might pull it into here, copy, go to ChatGPT, and we're going to say, hey, I am having trouble with finding the right words. Can you please provide me with 3 examples of an introduction that I can make to someone, enterprise customer success manager, who has been in their role for 8 months and just traveled to this country. Here are the requirements for their job. Start with, my name is Summer, am a then fill in the blank with 3. We'll see what it comes out with. Hey, my name is Summer. I am a customer success manager specializing in fostering long-term partnerships and driving impactful outcomes for enterprise clients. Cool, that's a pretty good place to start. I'm a customer success manager. Okay, so I'm going to say, I haven't been a customer success manager. What can I say when I have helped consulting in operations in sales and was measured by satisfaction. Let's check it out. Customer-centric professional. Okay, so I would still use customer-facing, but I'm a professional with cross-functional experience in consulting, operations, and sales, focusing on delivering value and driving satisfaction for customers. Hey, that's awesome. Let's use that. Got to be different every time, right? So we're going to say, my name is Summer. I am a, okay, changing it, my role in person's language. Fantastic experience in consulting, operations, and sales, focusing on delivering value and driving satisfaction for customers who are experiencing complex change. Operations and sales with an analytical background and a focus. Great. So I'm touching on things we have in common. I'm introducing myself. And what I'm trying to really do is spark some curiosity in a very short period of time. And each one of these is custom. You just get better and better as you get along. The next part of this is, why am I reaching out? And so here I was browsing through LinkedIn, seeking some hands-on insight into the industry. I came across your information. I hope you don't mind me reaching out at the blue here. With your extensive background in systems and processes, combined with your recent transition to customer success at company, congrats, I figured you'd know exactly what it takes to excel. And I would love the opportunity to run some questions by you, as well as tap into any advice that you may have for someone who also has a non-traditional background. Okay, so why I'm reaching out is kind of like the first 2/3 of that. So let's break it down. Okay, number one, be a human. Tell the truth. I was on LinkedIn. What if you worked with this person and could use them as a resource to learn? Like if you were already working with them and I was working with Bob and I saw that Bob had these things and I reached out to Bob, I'd probably do that. I'd do that as a CSM right now. It's not that weird to do that to someone that you don't know. You just have to look at it the right way. How would you feel if this person came to you to validate your achievements? Pretty good. It always feels nice. What if they might need to get a job in the future and you could be a valuable part of their network? So we're looking at, what's the transaction that's occurring? Where's the value? Because I felt really weird sending a stranger a message. I was like, well, why do they want to talk to me? But the fact is that if they take any form of action to engage, then they do think that it could be of value to them too. It is permission for you to go ahead and do it. It's not that scary after you've done it your first time. So what we're going to do is just break down the 4 pieces here. Is what's their background? What would you be proud of if you were them? What recent events have occurred in their life or at their company? And what do you have in common? Okay, and so then what you're going to do is just say what you were doing in a nice set of words. You can use ChatGPT to help just come up with some ideas and then edit something. But fundamentally, you're browsing through LinkedIn. And then why pick them? Okay, and we're going to put together a statement that incorporates those 4 pieces above and feels good and makes sense. And then we turn to the next part, which is what do we want, but it's that you have what it takes to excel, and I want to run some questions by you. What we're doing now is we're going to deal with the why am I reaching out portion. Okay, so these are the 4 questions that we're looking to answer. What's their background? What would you be proud of if you were them? What recent events have occurred? And what do you have in common? So I already had a little bit of information down here. They've been in the country for 8 months. I'd feel pretty proud if I just moved countries and already had a great role within 8 months of doing so. Okay, so in that case, we're just going to say moved from Nigeria. We want to be specific here to Toronto 8 months ago. We don't technically know that, but we're going to say that. Great. They're an enterprise customer success manager. So it's pretty interesting that there used to be a CS leader and now they're an enterprise customer success manager. So this could be considered a step down for them. All right. So we could be getting some really high quality advice from someone with a lot of experience, but they need to prove themselves. Oh, that's interesting. I need to prove myself too. Fantastic. Okay. Now, what do we have in common? Well, we both have an analytical background. Okay, I already used those words, but we can ask, how does your analytical background, or find out how your analytical background helped you to launch such a successful career in customer success and it's a pretty nice sounding line. Okay. Great. Get rid of that. Recent events, we have the big move. Okay, it's kind of the same thing as what they'd be proud of. So that feels pretty good. And then we have fire bit. Okay, great. So I like to say what I was doing, which was I was browsing through LinkedIn and came across your profile. After noticing you'd only been in Toronto for 8 months after moving from Nigeria. And see what I'm doing here, and noticed that you've only been in Toronto for 8 months after moving from Nigeria! Exclamation mark. I hope you don't mind me reaching out of the blue. Okay. All right, so let's just check it out real quick, see if it reads well. Hi, Osawaru. My name is Summer, and I'm a professional with cross-functional experience across operations and sales with an analytical background and a focus on delivering value, driving satisfaction for customers who are experiencing complex change. Okay, I was browsing through LinkedIn and came across your profile. Okay, this doesn't read well. Say it out loud, right? Because that helps you to be able to, this is what you're going to say if you actually get a meeting with them as well. I was browsing through LinkedIn, came across your profile, and noticed that you've only been in Toronto for 8 months after moving from Nigeria. I hope you don't mind me reaching out of the blue. With such a large move and stepping from a CS leader into an enterprise customer success manager role with Instacart, I thought that you'd be the best person to ask about how someone who is a few steps behind you with an analytical background can also launch a successful career in customer success. That's probably what I would say. And you don't want to spend too long doing this because you're going to try and do it a lot. So the goal is to be able to just practice the reps and you'll naturally get better as you go. I've done this 185 times, so it comes out a little more naturally. Each one was slightly unique with the same sort of template that it was applied. So we're looking at here, boom, 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 boom. And now we need a call to action of some sort. And we also need someone to send it to. So I'm going to show you how to get their email address. Okay. You're going to take their name. You're going to log into hunter.io. And this is just what I used. So we're going to enter their name. We're going to apply their email address. And then we're going to see here, okay, so it's first name dot last name at instacart.com. Interesting. Let's verify it. This is what I used to do is I would actually come in here and I'll type it in. I'd see whether it would populate an email address, a little picture, I'm sorry. So that didn't really work. So what we're going to do is we're going to experiment with a few different variations because different companies have different variations. So we might go O, last name, so first initial, last name at domain. No picture. First initial, full stop, last name, no. Okay. First and second initial, full stop, no. All right. First dot, second initial, first name, second initial, no. So what you'll see is you might come across a certain way that the email addresses are working. So then you could also Google it. I mean, in all honesty, you can just send the email and it will bounce back if it's not right. And then you can figure it out from there. The most efficient way to do it would be to use Hunter to send the email. And then if it bounces back, you go and spend more time figuring it out. But if you're doing this in a batch where you have 10 different CSMs from Instacart, it would make sense to spend the extra time figuring out how they use their email address. So we're looking at it like this. And we could also find email by company, and we can search. That's confusing. Instacart. That's the one. And then we'll have a look. First dot last. First dot last. First dot last. Okay, so this is actually what makes the most sense. We're going to stick with first dot last. Cool. So let's take our email. We're just going to put what we've got so far in there. Boom. And everyone has a whole different set of questions about what do I put for the subject line. I spent a heap of time thinking about this. This is what I send. I don't really capitalize it. I'm thinking, what would I open if I received it and I was busy? This would be it. Okay. And even this is pretty long. Maybe you can strip it back a little bit. On delivering data backed value. Yeah, that feels better. I don't like repeating things. The focus on delivering data backed value. Data supported value. There you go. And so what you're doing is just looking through different words that read well. How do you know if it reads well? You say it out loud, and if it flows, then it will flow in their brain. And then we're looking at keeping it as simple as we can as well. Okay, you could go through here and you could cut the reading level down to a simpler grade level. You would do something like this. You would copy it. You would paste it in here. You would paste like that. And you would say, make this read at a grade 5 level. Show me the words that you change. Let's see what it does. I've highlighted the changes in bold. So, hi, my name is Summer. I've experienced in different areas like operation. So I don't like that personally, but let's check it out. I hope it's okay that I'm reaching out. See, that's fine. I was looking at LinkedIn, saw your profile, noticed you moved from Toronto to Nigeria 8 months ago. With such a big move and stepping into a CS leader, I thought that you'd be interested to ask. I'd love to know how someone with an analytical background like me could also start a successful career in customer success. Okay, not bad. And then here are the changes that are made. And this is coaching. Okay, so this is where a tool like Lavender that is doing a similar sort of thing. And it's showing us, well, why are we changing it? And so what you're thinking about is after 100 or 150 of these, this is baked into your brain so that when you start communicating as a CSM, you're making sure that your audience understands your message. Okay, so you can choose what you wish to do. I'm going to go with this one, but I'm going to change that first a little bit. So let's go in here. We'll head into our email. We're going to change from here. Okay, great. Now you notice everything changed the formatting as well. So we're gonna okay. So we need a call to action down the bottom. All right. So now you know how to write your why am I asking and how to find their email. The last part is what do I want? And what we're looking at here is to run some questions by you, to tap into any advice that you may have, and to chat for 10 minutes. What do I want? So we're going to jump back into our email, and this one is the most prescriptive or repeatable part of the entire process. Picking up where we left off, I made a little change, but we're seeing through here a bit of a justification of why we chose Osawaru. And then I said, I thought you'd be the best person to ask for a little guidance. I've simplified it just a little bit. Here's my call to action. I'm trying not to be very forceful, kind of light. I don't want to push someone into having a meeting. I'd like someone who's the right person, who's going to be eager to be able to maybe share their experience, share their advice, and share their journey as a whole. I'm trying to engage and connect while at the same time picking up some pieces of information that are going to be valuable. Worst case scenario, I have a 15-minute call with someone and I practice running a meeting. It's really, there's a zero loss. For myself, I made some amazing friends that I still have today from this process, and it was really cool. So what we're going to do is just something to do with their time, okay? And I'm asking for 15 minutes to chat, and this is the specific thing that I would like. So appreciating your schedule is likely jam-packed. Would sharing a 15-minute chat around how someone with an analytical background like me could also launch a career in customer success be possible? Okay, there are heaps of different ways that you could communicate this, and that's the cool thing, is it's about putting who you are into a nice, simple email, asking a nice, simple question, and someone will say yes if you do it enough times, and you'll start to build momentum and you'll see patterns, and this is the exciting thing about it. So we've got it all here. Why don't we go ahead and click send? All right, we've sent our email, and now we're going to quickly run through the process from start to end just to have a quick look at what we've done. So step one, we've added them on LinkedIn. Step two, we found their work email. I've shown you how to do that through both Gmail and hunter.io. We've sent the email. We're going to log it to our Google Sheets or whatever CRM you enjoy using. I personally just had the company that they're working at, the role that was open, the person's name, their email, when I sent the message, and I liked to check off that I had added them on LinkedIn. Here it's up to you if you like numbers and tracking things. I find that measurement is the first and best intervention. The more things that I measured, the more accurately I followed them. That's up to you. I then looked at scheduling a follow-up for 5 business days. Now, this is a little bit different than what, say, like a business development representative of BDR might do at an actual company. They often have a much tighter cadence. What I found was I was sending new out every single day, and I didn't have that much time to be able to sort of refocus on people the next day. Maybe that will work well for you. This is just what I did. When they do accept you on LinkedIn, which will happen, then all I did was I would copy the email, I would send it to them over LinkedIn. At the top, I would just say, hey, like I sent you an email. I'm sure it's just got caught into spam, so I thought I'd leave it here too, something like that. And then I would resend the email back to their work email address in a new email chain. And then I would just refer back to the fact like, hey, we just connected on LinkedIn. And then boom, I would say that same thing over there. Once you've done that, great job. I'm going to quickly review here the tools that I used, or my like job seeking tech stack, if you will. So I used Lavender, which is free for job seekers. Huge shout out. It helped me to learn to be concise, to keep my language more simple, and to be more optimized for mobile. I look at a lot of emails on mobile. Sometimes you just don't think about it. I used Loom heaps. You can see I'm using Loom to make this video, and I found that this was really cool for post-meeting emails. I would embed a video recording. I will show you how I did that as well. LinkedIn, obviously, we use a heap. I used it to find open jobs. I also used other job sites, but I used LinkedIn a lot. This is where I'm locating people as well. Hunter.io, great for email address. Obviously, you can do the Gmail method as well. Really, it doesn't really matter. You just find their email, however it needs to happen. The Google Suite is how I kept all of my information. So each open role, I would have a doc that I would open and paste the job description in there and any sort of my notes or anything like that. And then when I get a meeting, I would go back to that job description and it would all be based on the role. I use Slides to keep my own resume so that I could really easily maintain the formatting whilst changing keywords for each role. And then I use Sheets as my own personal CRM and to sort of look back over things as well. If you have something like HubSpot, great. Everything I did was templated. I'm going to share the basis of these templates. You make your own based on your own flavor, but there is a framework that you're trying to follow. And then I leverage ChatGPT a lot to check for my work. We're looking at things like editing, things like grammar, simplification of words. And then when you get stuck, and obviously there's the whole emotional side of doing this, and it's really hard. My belief was low, my confidence was low, and it's hard to be creative when you're in that position. And so sometimes ChatGPT would just give me enough oomph when trying to stimulate my mind and keep myself moving, because you don't want to bog yourself down. I think Tony Robbins said, stay in your head, you're dead. And that's one that I still today, every single day, have to keep thinking about because, and maybe this is a CSM thing, but I analyze a lot of things during work and I kind of take that home as well. So that's kind of like my tech stack. All of these things were free. There are paid alternatives to all of them. I'm sure that would save time, provide additional features, but I used the complimentary version of each of them. So now here's the fun thing. I used to read and research, and that's how I was raised at school, and then go and do a test. And so what I found is that during this process, I spent many months looking at like the right way to do it. And then when I found the keyword resume thing, I was like, okay, I believe that I can be a CSM, so I'm gonna go get a job now. So then I spent another couple of weeks researching the right way to write a bullet. And then another couple of weeks researching and practicing writing my resume. And I wasted a whole heap of time. And that showed up when I missed, there were 3 roles that I had a really good opportunity for. I spoke to the recruiter, but they were already really far along in the hiring process, right? I was at interview 1, and there were a whole bunch of people at the last round doing a case study. I couldn't keep up and they hired someone. So timing is extremely important. And the other part behind that is that learning occurs from doing. It doesn't really occur from reading. That's gathering information. And when I understood that the only way to make my skill or my leverage better was to go and do more, then I was like, oh, okay. So everything that you've watched until this moment in time is completely useless unless you actually apply it. So my one ask is that you stop, you pause this, and you go and do this one time. Go back in the video, use the bookmarks, and follow through. Find one person. Do it to me. Who cares? Give it a shot. I might reject you if it's bad. All right, someone sent me a message today saying just, hi, Summer. It's not hard to beat the competition. All right, nothing's probably going to happen. Just if you send your first message, the odds are nothing will happen. Ironically, the very first person that I showed how to do this sent one message, and the first time they sent it, they got a call with that person. That was pretty cool, but that's not typical. It might take 1, 5, 15, 20, you don't know. All of these people could come back 3 days later, and then you have 16. It's not up to you. The only thing you can control is what you do. All right, and then once you've done it once, then my recommendation here is you go back and you do it 10 more times. That's probably the smartest way for you to be able to get some reps under your belt. Learn as you go, okay? I did make why I reached out to them different every single time as well. And that's an important thing to note. It's just if you happen to be sending, a part of the strategy of doing this is you might pick 10 individuals within one company, and then you're gonna send each of those 10 individuals a message. One of them might reply, all 10 might reply. I don't know. Who's to say that 3 of them have a conversation with you and then all 3 go, whoa, you're awesome. And then they go and send each other the emails that you sent to all 3 of them, and it's a carbon copy email. Then maybe it doesn't matter, but maybe they're gonna look down a little bit on that. If you've personalized all 3 and they send it to each other, they'll be like, whoa, look at how much attention to detail and work this person's put in. And both, you and I know that it doesn't take that much work to personalize it, but it represents well within your internal brand, within the organization, for you to have that kind of approach. And that's what we're trying to focus on, because when you become a CSM, well, that's what you're going to be doing. Now, we're at the end of the video, and if you do this enough times, it is inevitable that you do not book a meeting. Inevitable. There will be one person. This is the cardinal sort of rule is, if you do something 100 times and it's worked for someone else, then the odds are in your favor that at some point in time it will work. And so instead of thinking about things in 1s and 2s, think about them in 10s or 100s, and that way you will have a better frame of reference when something doesn't work after a short period of time. Okay, so at the end, here we are. You've booked a meeting. Great job. Now what do? Keep your eyes posted. That is the next video. Until then, I'm CSM Summer. Give me a like or a follow. Hit me up on Instagram, where I'm sharing lessons that I learned